Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependent Dummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Codependent Dummy podcast. Today, we have Ofra Obejas. She plays with kids for a living. She is a play therapist in the Los Angeles area where she provides child and family therapy and parent coaching. Ofra, thank you for coming on the Codependent Dummy podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. All right. So first question, it's no mystery, but it's a mystery to us, your conception of codependency. So how do you define codependency?
Yeah, well, as you said, as a child therapist, I sometimes get a front row seat to seeing how a codependent is being made. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I can stop that train wreck and turn things around. But so for me, seeing it in the making, I agree with your definition and I would like to add to it. So I agree with your definition of we put others' needs above our own, and I add to it the reason. No child is ever born with the reflex or instinct to not take care of their own needs. Mm-hmm. So what happens? What would lead a child to possibly choose the needs of others to put it ahead of their own? In other words, take care of other people first. So that happens when there's a conflict between competing factors, when we try to meet our own needs, but it can have a negative consequence. It can be unsafe, intolerable, or too scary.
Mm. Unsafe, intolerable, or too scary to continue to maintain my reflex, my natural desire to prioritize my needs.
Yes, no child in the crib does this kind of thinking. I want to cry because I need a change or I'm hungry, but I don't want to wake up my parents.
Right.
But we learn, and in order for kids to learn to put the needs of parents first, they have to be sensitive enough to even know what the needs are of parents or any caregiver in their environment. There's a book written about 40 years ago by Alice Miller. It was translated to English as The Drama of the Gifted Child. It's not a great translation because gifted here just means a child who's more intelligent, more emotionally aware, and more sensitive to the needs of others. And in that book, Alice Miller describes how a child can sense what the mother, in this case, is feeling and meet her needs, to not upset her, to not make her not be able to function as a mother.
Right.
It's kind of a heavy read, but that's for professional education. That's a good book to read. I'm sure we'll put it in the notes.
Mm-hmm. So for you, codependency, putting the needs of someone, right, most likely a parent, above our own, initially as a child, because it's too scary, intolerable. What was the other?
Unsafe.
And go ahead.
And you have to be able to sense what it is that the other needs.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, go ahead.
In other words, a child's organizing principle is you have to be okay. The parent, you have to be okay for me to be okay. I'll do whatever it takes to make you okay because that's the only way I can be okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're making me remember. I've talked about this before on this show, but I remember my twin sister and I it was on Christmas morning. I knew that my mom and dad, especially my mom, had stayed up all night, maybe even for the past 2 or 3 days. She had been losing sleep, making tamales, baking cookies, wrapping presents, getting the letter sent out. And I remember on Christmas morning begging my twin sister because she wanted to get up and go open the presents. And I was like, Sonia, don't go. Don't. It's too early. Like, mom's exhausted. This is going to be bad if we go and she has any more sleep deprivation. Right. So here's my twin being a kid wanting to prioritize her needs for opening presents. And here's me like already starting to be conscious of my mom's needs, my dad's needs, the family's overall needs, and sensing if they get to rest a little longer, I'll be okay. We'll be okay. It will be better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know if your sister didn't sense it, but there was something about you that did sense the needs of others. Maybe they look tired, maybe they're a little grumpy in the morning, something you can read the feelings of others. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of these children turn out to be in a helping profession, because they really can pick up what others are feeling. They really can read the room.
Right. And can you share experiences of codependency in your own life?
Yeah, I have a couple of examples, and they're pretty heavy. I also have examples of children that I worked with, but I don't mind delving into my own life. I know you've mentioned in the program, in the podcast, Marie said that a lot of people are worried about airing the family dirty laundry. They preface what they're saying that I love my parents, but I don't want to say anything bad about my parents. I don't want to feel bad. Not a problem with me. Not an issue at all. My parents are alive, and if they would listen to this, they would listen to it. So before I say anything about my parents, I would say that there's two situations that I see in my practice about children turning into codependent, and I would group it into two different categories. The one where the parents really, for some reason, cannot function as a caregiver, as a proper caregiver. So that would be mental illness, personality disorder, or addiction. And that is something that I cannot take a child and fix this for them. But there are other things that are temporary in the environment. For example, national disaster right now, a pandemic, a loss in the family, having a sibling with special needs, having something temporarily happen like a financial struggle, something that happens that we can manage how we feel around it. In other words, my work would be to show the child that they can be okay even if other people are not. But in my case, it's one of those cases that you really cannot fix the parents without a lot of work. And sometimes I don't know if a lot of work even helps. But in my case, I found in graduate school, I found a textbook about my parents. I didn't know there was a textbook about them. It's called The Narcissistic Borderline Couple. I realized that is a pattern that those two personality disorders attract. And that is the description of my parents. So because of that particular combination, things happened in my family. I have an older sister who's 4 years older than me. And she and my father did not get along. Right now, if you talked about it, my parents would say she was difficult. But I think that the only thing that was difficult about her was that she stood up and she said what she thought. And if she disagreed with something, she expressed it. Well, you don't do that with a narcissist. So my father, being the stronger and bigger person, would beat her up and basically try to change the behavior. So it's a lot of there's violence in the family, and it got to a point where it just was not manageable anymore to have these two people live in the same house. So she was sent to foster care. I'm having a hard time talking about it right now. I don't know how many times I've talked about it, and I get emotional every time I say it. But
Mm-hmm.
Marissa, you better believe that after my sister was sent to foster home when she didn't behave, that I was the perfect child.
Right.
I fulfilled every dream and every desire of my father. Was the straight A student, good at math, athletic, popular. I would get up every morning and make breakfast and a brown bag lunch for my parents and my sisters. I am not a burden. Don't think that I don't know how to make you feel okay, because what is the alternative? When I talk about the conflicting needs of children, the alternative is you don't like the kid, you start beating them up, and if that doesn't help, you kick them out of the house.
Right.
So that is an example of you have a choice to make, and the alternative is not tolerable. At least it wasn't tolerable for me. Where am I going to live if I get kicked out? I did leave home when I was 17. I had another year of high school, but I had a job. I got an apartment. I was independent of my parents.
Wow.
But another way of saying it is, you can take the environment out, but you cannot take the programming out. So to this day, when I'm faced with a situation where somebody could be angry with me, when I say what I really need and they could be angry, when I have to say no to somebody, sometimes I get this pit in my stomach and I feel like somebody has taken over my body and is speaking through my mouth and saying yes when I want to say no. And it's not hard to understand that at that moment, I'm 10 years old again. And I'm thinking, if I make the other person angry, I could be thrown out.
Right.
And it's that kind of a feeling. I heard a really good example I'll make it brief, a short example, an interview with my namesake, almost, Oprah. Well, she said that when she was little, she was whooped by her grandmother.
Right.
And then, she grew up, she became a TV mogul, she has her own TV network, and she was faced with having to fire somebody. And knowing that she needed to go and tell this person, I'm firing you, she started shaking with fear, trembling. And she said, what is wrong with me? I'm a grown independent woman. And she went into a room and meditated to try to find out, what is it that I'm afraid of? And then it came to her, I'm afraid of being whooped. It just, it doesn't leave you. When somebody's angry with me, that's in the body, that is the feeling. So I guess we have to figure out to do things in spite of that fear and say, I'm not that 10-year-old again. And what if somebody gets angry with me?
Right.
So the awareness of why we make these codependent decisions is very helpful. And Marissa, you shared your background, and it might have been different for you. You're very good at explaining what happened to you. This is one aspect of it. Like I said, when it's unsafe or intolerable, when the consequences could be really dire.
Right. So for Oprah, right, to express herself, assert disappointment, to assert, unmet expectations, to assert unprofessionalism in someone, she feared, right, that same part of her that feared standing up for herself when she was little came up again. She feared she was going to be whooped. And here you are throughout your young adulthood, even now, right? If I say something that could trigger someone's anger, I will metaphorically, right, psychically, maybe relationally be put in foster care when I'm part of this person's metaphorical family.
Right. I'd lose my home.
Yeah.
So that's very scary.
Right. It's terrifying.
I mean, that feeling, even if you don't name it, that's the feeling of always going to be lost.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty extreme. And I have other extreme examples from my professional life. Marissa, I know both you and I, we've talked about it. We worked in community mental health, and we see a lot of trauma. We see child abuse. It could be physical abuse, and it could be sexual abuse. And something that's very hard for people to understand is how can a child be sexually abused and not make it stop? I know that sometimes there's many factors, and it's never the child's fault. They might be threatened, so they might have tried to tell somebody and they don't believe them. But sometimes just telling somebody, a responsible adult, will make it stop. So why do children not do it? And I'll give you an example from a case I worked with, a teenage girl, I'll call her Yasmin. And Yasmin came from a home with a lot of children, and the parents were separated. And Yasmin's brother molested her. She was removed from the home because of a lot of acting out behavior, and came to a residential facility where I worked. And she would tell people, my brother molested me. Well, when you do something that it's like throwing a grenade in the middle of your family. So this is what the week was like. On Monday, Yasmin says, my brother molested me. We call, we report it. Child Protective Services show up at the home. Yasmin starts getting phone calls from her mother and sisters. On Tuesday, they come to interview Yasmin. She said, I made it up. It didn't happen. It's not true. I lied about it. On the weekend, she gets a home pass. She goes home. Monday, she comes back to the facility. It starts all over again. My brother molested me, et cetera, et cetera. So we see a lot of kids say something and then take it back. We call it recanting. Right. And not even something this extreme, but they say something and then they take it back. Oh, I was kidding. Just kidding. I didn't mean it. You know, it's not true. I don't know why I said it. It's actually the opposite of what I said. I'll give you another example, very, very similar to this. Something that can happen in families is a loss, a child whose parent died. And I saw in front of my eyes, a child tries to assert their needs to their surviving parent, and then freeze when they saw how overwhelmed the parent was. The parent is really overwhelmed by their own grief. And the child started saying a complaint and then froze when they saw the expression on the parent's face and said, haha, not you. I didn't mean you, parent. You are a great parent. I take it all back because I can see that you can't deal with this.
Right. I'm not okay if you're not okay. Let me make sure you're okay, and then I'll be okay.
Right. I'll reassure you. I'm not complaining. Please don't mind what I just said. You're great. I mean, a 6-year-old saying to their parent, you are a great parent. What 6-year-old says that normally? You are a great parent. Don't worry about it. I love you. You are wonderful. You are perfect.
Right. So this 6-year-old, Yasmin, you, Oprah, me, right? Like just slowly experiencing these cues, these signs, implicit and explicit communication, and slowly shifting from, prioritizing, not even prioritizing, but just being born. Like you said, it's a reflex to take care of our needs. But then we are really that baby in a crib who does time our crying so we don't interrupt mom and dad's afternoon.
Yeah, you sense that what you just did is not okay. In the case of Yasmin, there were a lot of work to do with that family. There's something else that we all noticed, all of us working with her in the residential and the family, is that in that family, nobody's feelings were separate from anybody else's feelings. And that is part of a definition of a codependent as well, that there's no separate feeling, that everybody's feelings are everybody's feelings. That Yasmin would come back and say, oh, my older sister broke up with her boyfriend, and we all sat and cried. Well, why are you crying? It's not your boyfriend. Why did your mom cry? It's not her boyfriend. Well, there's no separation. We all feel the same feelings. And it's not that the family pressured Yasmin to not go forward with the allegation. It's that she felt what they were feeling. what happened in Yasmin's case was that her mother was the sole provider of the family. She worked a minimum wage job and needed the brother's income to help support the family, or they would be evicted from their apartment. So every time Yasmin makes the allegation, if it's truly investigated and found to be true, the brother will be removed from the home. Well, that will impact everybody. And everybody is afraid of it. And Yasmin is absorbing that feeling too. It's not that they're threatening her or manipulating her. She just senses everybody is scared. Mm-hmm. So she's scared. She's like, oh, never mind. It didn't happen. I made it up. There was just so many times where I heard kids take back what they reported.
Recanted.
Yeah. Recanted. Yeah. That's a heartbreaker. Mm-hmm. But even on a smaller scale, even when I see the 6-year-old saying to their parent, you're wonderful, don't change, you don't have to do anything different, that's a heartbreaker too.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's all heartbreaking.
Yeah, in my work, I am trying to stop codependency from happening, from taking root. If there's anything I do with children is try to tell them that what they feel matters, that they matter, their needs matter, and that they can meet their needs, and that they can tolerate it if what they want is not what somebody else wants. Mm-hmm. And they test me. Let's see if do you walk the walk, or do you just talk the talk? This is something that happens with every child that I work with, is that they test me for safety. Are you safe? It comes up with a question that sounds something like this: what are you going to do if I break a toy in the playroom? Are you going to be mad at me if I do something that you told me not to do? Are you going to be mad at me if I made a mess? And I used to say, because I thought that I had to stay so professional and not let my feelings ever cloud my judgment, I would say, oh, no matter what you do, I will never be mad at you, which is BS. I mean, I'm human. The kids know that I'm going to be mad. And what's even more scary is if I am mad, but I'm saying I'm not. So just to mimic it, I would say to the kid, I will never say, no, I'm not mad at you. As you know, right. I'm clenching my teeth and I want to strangle them. That's even more scary, because that's not, something is not matching. You know, that is a threat to the nervous system. We call it incongruence. Mm-hmm. Incongruence, something that an environment doesn't match. That's very scary. So what I say now, and somebody helped me with that, is it's okay to tell the children, I will be mad. And here's what it's going to look like. If I told you to not be rough with the toy and you broke it, I'm going to say, I don't like it. I told you not to play with this and you broke it. That's what it's going to be like. Can you tolerate that? Mm-hmm. Now you know what it's going to be like. Is that manageable? It's not going to get worse than that. In other words, if I get mad at you, it's not the end of the world. Let's practice it. Can we tolerate it? Right. So yeah, I'll be mad, and I do express it when I'm mad. You know, yeah, I said pick up the mess and you didn't pick it up. I usually don't do that. It's not kids' job to pick up, but if we make slime together and they throw it at the wall, I would say, you know, that's not cool. And they throw it at the wall again. I'm like, no, I said not at the wall. Please do not throw it at the wall. Please do what I say, or we're going to have to pause the playtime.
Right.
But that's as bad as it's going to get.
Right. Not you're making me mad. Mm-hmm. You're a bad girl.
Or
if you keep this up. Yeah, there's no threats or
that's it. No more playtime for you. I'm going to tell your mom never to bring you here again.
Right. Yeah.
You're a bad kid. Yeah, you're right, Marisa. Yeah. So I'll be mad and we can both tolerate it, right? So we're practicing tolerating when somebody else is not okay.
Which you, Oprah, Yasmin, the 6-year-old me, we don't realize that. Mm-hmm. We truly, on some deep level, we do not realize that we will, right? It's not the end of the world, or I forget the language you just said, but yeah, it's not the end of the world if someone's angry at me. That is not my experience. I don't know what you're talking about. So being able to have you as a therapist to experience that.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
manageable. I will help you tolerate it. What is our job as therapists is to be the co-regulator for somebody. So that's a neurological term. We regulate our mood, we regulate our nervous system, and I can help you regulate. I will be your co-regulator. I will show you that we can manage. This is how we manage. When something upsetting happens, we manage. It's not about being calm. Oh, let's be zen and the whole session is about. We can be angry and we can manage it. We can be scared and we can manage it. We can have the feeling and it's not going to overwhelm us.
Right.
And the whole idea behind play as therapy is that you make all the experiences a little bit removed so they can be tolerable. But we're practicing tolerating when it's not about us, when it's a little bit distant from us. It's like we bring things up in tolerable doses. So if the kid, for example, is showing me the tiger is chasing the monkey in the sandbox, and I can play the tiger and the kid can play the monkey. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to hurt you. But it's not about us. It's about the little figurines. Mm-hmm. So we can tolerate it because it's not overwhelming us.
Right.
That is the idea of play as therapy.
Got it. All right. I do want to hear more about, can you share your definition of enmeshment? And right, we talked about yes means everyone's feeling the same feelings.
Yes.
What does enmeshment mean for you?
So there is no separation between the feelings of one person and another, and it could be several people.
Right.
Again, what is the gifted child? The child who's more emotionally aware, more in tuned, more sensitive, is they can really sense the feelings of somebody else. How do we sense other people's feelings? Sometimes we just feel the feelings of other people. We can look, we can think, but we can also feel it. We're all energy beings. We all are picking up the energy of other people. Feelings can be contagious, we can have contagion, we can have anxiety. One person in a house is so anxious, everybody's anxious. One person is depressed, everybody is depressed. And we actually are feeling what other people are feeling. So they can't feel bad and we don't feel bad too.
Right.
We're all feeling the same feelings. So taking care of somebody else's feelings, we also take care of our feelings. Because if they stop being depressed, we don't have to be depressed either, or scared or anxious. So that is the definition for me, is that there really is no separation. Whatever one feels, the other feels. It's like a circle.
Mm-hmm. And for how do you distinguish in your life, in your practice, enmeshment and healthy attachment, empathy? Because I sense growing up, I would have falsely taken pride in how empathetic I was, but really, I was enmeshed with my family, my friends, even the movies I would watch. It's just like I would bleed. Like if someone else was bleeding, I was bleeding. It wasn't healthy.
Yeah, and a good movie really does make you feel, and you forget, the suspension of disbelief. You really forget that it's happening to other people. That's why we go to the movies, to feel what they're feeling. Oh, I'm the romance character.
Yes.
It feels I'm feeling good because there's romance in the movie. So the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is I feel what the other person is feeling. I know what they're feeling. I'm feeling it. Empathy is I can read it. I know what they're feeling. I've had those feelings in my life, so I know what they are. I get it. But I don't have to feel it in this moment with them. Right. And say, oh, I get it. I get it, but I don't have to feel it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something else that happens in working with children, and I coach parents. The child will make other people feel what the child is feeling. For example, I made the example of a child breaks a toy. They want me to be mad. They're mad at something and they think I don't get it. So I've had a lot of children really push me to the limit if I didn't show them, oh, I get it. Oh, are you mad now? Oh, you're not mad now? You can take this? Oh, how about this? Next thing. I messed up half the room. You're still tolerating it. What if I messed up all of the room? I take all the toys off the shelves and throw them on the ground. Are you upset now? And when I held it back and said, no, I can take it, they would really up the ante. I mean, I had slime smeared on the walls and on the furniture. Oh, can you take it now? Well, the minute I start stopping and saying, well, no, actually, I'm getting it. I'm getting really mad right now. And I'm able to express it in a safe way. Then the kid says, oh, you get it. Okay, I don't have to act out more and more to see that you get it. And they do it to their parents, of course. And I coach the parents in picking it up and responding in a way that the child gets it. Oh, I understand what you're going through. One of my mentors brought a great example where she picked up her daughter at school and said, oh, hi, honey, how's your day? Mom, you gave me the wrong lunchbox. You don't know that I like Superman and not Spider-Man. You put the wrong food in there. And the mom, after a while, thinks, I couldn't get anything right today. Everything I did today was wrong. And she asked her daughter, how was your day? Oh, I talked to this friend, but she didn't want to be with me. And then I said the wrong thing. So the daughter was just trying to make the mom feel, this is what it's like when nothing you did today was right. And she literally makes her feel that. And the mom caught it pretty quickly, being a therapist of children. Wow. This is a mentor. Said, oh, honey, nothing worked the way you wanted today. You couldn't get anything right today. Yeah, mom, you get it. So this play therapist mentor calls it the setup. Children set up the adults to feel what the child is feeling. And I showed the adults that I work with, the parents, what is it that the child is trying to set you up to feel? Right. But this is a way of not being enmeshed, right? The parent does not have to feel it if they can catch it and say, oh, I understand what you're trying to show me. I don't have to feel it to show you that I get it. And that's what I do in the therapy too. I don't have to feel what you're feeling to tell you I get it. Right. Yeah, so it's the answer to you're asking, Marissa, what is the difference between enmeshment, just empathy, and in codependency, of course, it's a lot of enmeshment. I can't tolerate what the other person might feel. Right. I have another example that.
Well, really quick, I just want to highlight Ofra and that interaction. Your mentor did such an amazing job, because it is so hard, I sense, for parents, young adults, children to, right, in that situation, right? I don't have children, but let's say I pick up my child and she's like, Mom, you picked the wrong lunchbox, you put the wrong, and depending where I'm at mentally, I might be like, oh, hell no. You're lucky that I packed your lunch. Do you know how many kids buy lunch in the cafeteria? And you know what? If you like Spider-Man so much, you work for your next lunch pail. So just to highlight how, unfortunately, if we're met with that reaction, right, I sense that could potentially be one of multiple interactions that slowly, right, turn the tide towards getting in the car, being asked, how was your day today? If I want mom or dad to be okay, I need to say that I had a great day. And I don't complain about the fact that I hate Spider-Man and I want a PB&J. I just eat what I've got. And what do I do with those complaints or concerns or preferences?
Right, which really, in this case, we're standing for my friend didn't want to talk to me today. I didn't know the right thing to say in class. So those were just examples of blaming the mom. But you're absolutely right, Marissa. And that is why in parent coaching, I coach the parents to be able to also look at what is the child trying to make you feel. So what do you feel? Listen to what you're feeling. Oh, you're feeling really that something is unfair? That's your clue. That's what the child is trying to set you up to feel. Mm-hmm. And in this case, well, I worked really hard on putting your lunch in the lunchbox, and I took time, and it's really unfair that you're yelling at me right now. It's like, oh, okay, this is a clue. Unfair. I get yelled at undeservedly. Maybe that's exactly what happened to the girl at school. She knew the answer, but the teacher said she didn't, or something happened undeservedly. So that would be a really good clue. What am I feeling? That's what the child is trying to make me feel. They're trying to tell me that's what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you can feel the feeling, and you can also say, I'm feeling that this is really unfair. Why are you yelling at me? I don't want to be yelled at. And also, I wonder if you're feeling the same way.
Mm.
Right? It's okay to have your feeling, and it's okay to say also, I wonder if that's what you're feeling today.
Right.
Right. So that's a big piece in the child therapy, is to try to understand what the setup is.
The setup.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where a child makes a huge mess in the playroom, they're testing my patience. If I cared, let's say I care. I don't care about messes. I care about some other things. I get a lot of aggressive behavior in the playroom because I can tolerate it. And some therapists might stop before, my threshold is very high. But I'm trying to see, what am I feeling? Okay, my patience is being tested right now. I'm losing my patience. I wonder if the child is trying to show me something about their life. Right, so it's completely about trying to feel what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. Like we're trying to at least understand what they're feeling.
Understand.
And a little
empathize.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I cut you off when I asked about, brought up your mentor's amazing response to this child. Do you remember?
And I don't know if you want to keep this, because this is maybe a little too much information, but I wanted to bring a small example from my borderline mother. And I would just say as a side remark, when you have a narcissistic or a borderline parent, you can have at least one child who's codependent, at least, because one child needed to take care of that parent. You had a great guest on your podcast, Paul Gilmartin. I think that's exactly what happened there. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, for examples on my own life, and this is not a huge trauma, but as a young girl, as happens in the lives of many young girls, mm-hmm. I got my menstrual cycle. And I really was pondering whether to tell my mother or not. And I decided that not telling her was even worse than telling her. It was going to be a very uncomfortable, awkward conversation. But what if she found out that I hid it? Then I would be humiliated about being a prude, or why I'm embarrassed about natural things. So I told her. So expecting a very, very awkward and uncomfortable conversation, I came to my mother and I said, I got my period. And I would describe the expression on her face as a mixture of horror and disgust. And I was reading it as, look at what you made me do. Now you made me have an awkward, uncomfortable conversation that I don't want to have. And whatever was going on, all she did was she asked me, do you know what to do? And I said, yes. Awkward conversation avoided. Marissa, did I know what to do? I had no clue what to do. But it was less uncomfortable for me to be bleeding all over the place and not know what to do than to start a conversation that could go very, very badly. And I could just tell what a relief it was when I said, yeah, don't worry about it. And I figured it out, as I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. There was no Google, but I must have asked friends or somebody, and I did figure it out. But I'm bringing this as an example of just the expression of a parent's face, just knowing they just cannot go there with you. Something is going to be so uncomfortable that you would do anything to avoid it. Mm-hmm. And that is something that you and I know is called a double bind in psychology, right? When you have a choice between two things and you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So, even telling my mother, it's like, well, if I do, it's going to be awkward conversation. But if I don't, she could humiliate me for not telling her. It's like, which one of two choices that I don't want do I pick? Right. So that's the double bind. And I'm sure that's what a lot of codependents have experienced over and over and over. And that is why when we have a lot of choices, what do we choose as the lesser of the uncomfortable or intolerable things is to not take care of our needs. Let's make sure we take care of the other person's needs, because otherwise what happens could be even worse.
Right. The ultimate double bind. My needs or their needs? Like, their needs.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll break my back. I will be uncomfortable, be put in awkward situations, endure, suffer, because hopefully, if they're okay, eventually I'll be okay. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Not guaranteed.
And at least I won't be not okay now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right now I can't not be okay.
Right.
Right. And so this crisis will be averted and I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Can you share with us what are some signs? How do you sense codependency developing in a child? Telltale signs. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So like I said before, recanting, saying something and then saying, just kidding. Oh, I've heard that so many times. When the child says the truth and the immediate thing they say afterwards is, just kidding, because they realize they blurted something they shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. Not the truth as in a secret, but I didn't like that, blah, blah, blah. Just kidding. When they scan the environment, looking at how other people are reacting before deciding what they want to say. So sometimes I would have a parent and a child in the room together. And I know that before doing anything, the child looks up to the parent to say, are you okay? Are you okay with what I'm doing? Are you still okay with what I'm doing? Are you okay with what I'm saying? I need to check with you. Not that the parent asked them to check with them, but the child is making sure the parent is okay before doing anything. Mm-hmm. I always ask children when I play with them by themselves, and then I bring the parent in to show the parent how to support treatment, what we're doing, what came up, without breaking confidentiality, of course, how to support it. And I ask the child, whatever you were playing with, do you want your parent to see it or do you not want your parent to see it? We'll put it away because that's part of the work. If there's a sandbox with, G.I. Joe guys in the sandbox, that's what we worked on. And I see if the child says, no, let's put it away. I don't want to see what happens if my parent comes in and looks at it. Mm. So that's part of our work. And I wouldn't show this any more than I would say what your child said today was blah, blah, blah. That is just as confidential. So of course I asked them, do you want to put it away before we bring the parent in? It just means they think the parent might not be able to tolerate it. Or in one case, I had a child say, my mother is going to start asking me questions about it. And I don't want to have to answer questions. Enough with the questions. And I said, what if we bring the mother in and we say you're not allowed to ask questions? Okay, yeah, sure, you can say it. And I brought the mother in and I said, you're not going to ask any questions, but you can say what you see. Oh, I see that you put some castles in the sand, but no questions. That mother was very gregarious and asked a lot of questions, and the child just couldn't deal with this. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily codependent, but children are raised to have to answer questions. And a lot of times they avoid things if they think there's going to be a question coming. So they don't bring things up because they don't want to deal with the questions.
Mm-hmm. And also, right, wanting to put away what they were just playing with because of how it might potentially impact a parent when they come in. So being conscious of how the impact. So that's a sign.
Yeah. There's another thing that happens a lot in the play when there is aggressive behavior, because I allow it and I can tolerate it, not hurting, but aggressive in play. And I have a bop bag. That's an inflatable, it's like a beach ball, but it looks like a referee. And you knock it down, it comes back up. You know, if people are interested.
Oh yeah, a Bobo doll.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we call it bopper because its job in life is to be bopped. And people can look for referee bop bag if they want to see what it looks like. And of course, that is what it's for bopping. And I see kids go for it, like just smash that thing. Yeah, they don't last very long. And the parents sitting there going, no, not so hard, not so hard. Oh, maybe you can stop. And it's like, obviously the parent cannot tolerate it. They cannot tolerate seeing the aggression in their child, although nobody's being hurt. I mean, if somebody was being hurt, of course I would stop it. But when that happens, I take the parent out of the room. I say, if you really cannot tolerate it, then you cannot be in the room when the child is doing what they need to do. Mm-hmm. But I can just imagine what happens at home. Not so hard, not so fast. Oh, not that. Maybe this, maybe another thing. And the parent can't tolerate what the child is doing. So that is part of my work, to work on the parent's ability to tolerate what's going on for you, parent, why you're so anxious about the child expressing themselves.
Right. So some signs: recanting, scanning the environment and or parents, sensing like you're witnessing how conscious they are of how their impact they could have. You're like, it's okay. Like it's not you don't say anything, but yeah, you're just watching how, they want to put things away because it might upset or bother or trigger a bunch of questions. And then maybe in a parent-child dynamic, a sign of budding codependency is a parent who does not dismiss, but try to minimize the feeling, can't tolerate the feeling. And then, you're like, okay, you are just planting seeds for someone who, when they're angry, they'll keep it inside. When they're sad, they'll dry those tears. When they want to assert something, they won't say it because apparently people can't tolerate it.
Keyword, tolerate. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Or did you want to add something? I heard you go. Okay.
And I'm good.
You can add it. It's okay.
No. I'm good.
I'm curious, in the work that you've done, there's budding codependency that turns into full-blown codependency. Do you sense that there are cases and situations when it would be impossible to reverse the codependency in a child?
Not reverse. It's not impossible to reverse codependency because, as you know, you do so well in your podcast. You give people so many tools. First of all, be aware. Why are you making decisions where you put your needs second to others? So first of all, awareness. I guess that you can't do anything if somebody is never going to be aware of it. And the minute somebody is like, oh, that's why I'm making this decision, then you have so many tools that you've shared, Marissa. Of course, we're both therapists, but, there's also support groups, education, listening to podcasts and reading books, doing workbooks. You have some workbooks that you like, and your journal prompts that you give to your listeners and viewers. So it's never irreversible. Mm-hmm. Because you make decisions, you can make different decisions.
Right.
It's all about the decision.
So learning, right? We are that baby crying in a crib because we're hungry, we're wet, we're tired, we're gassy. I should have my nephew, so I'm learning all about the needs. But he is unapologetic. He's like, excuse me. And slowly through experiences with our parents, with our families, with authority figures, we are older, but we are acting like an infant who is trying to time when to cry. And it's okay, I have a wet diaper. It's okay, I'm hungry. It's okay, I'm gassy. I don't want to interrupt everybody because then they won't be okay, and thus I won't be okay. And so we're trying to find some balance between those two extremes, right? Where we're not unapologetic, just meeting all of our needs, but we're also not having needs.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say gassy, something that came to mind is the way Yasmin tested me and everybody else who worked with her is she would fart at us. Talk about gas. And this was a big test. Can you tolerate everything about me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tolerate this? Here's something I can do right now and see how you react to it. Because if you cannot tolerate this, I'm not going to tell you the next thing.
Right. Good for her.
Yes. Good. Yeah, good. And also I just remembered when you talk about enmeshment, I had a dollhouse in my office in the community mental health facility, and I had a lot of dolls. And the kids would come and do whatever they wanted to do with them. And Yasmin, who came from a very enmeshed family with abuse, would take all the dolls and stack them one on top of the other. I went, that is her family. There's no separation. It's just a big blob of people.
Right.
What a good visual to see what was going on in her family. That was a very interesting case.
Right. And this is an oversimplified question, but if we're in that doggy pile, right? You talked about awareness, talked about tools, listening to podcasts. Any other recommendation for how we can start to wiggle out?
The journaling, I think, is a great tool that you offered, or anything. When I feel this way, what comes to mind? And there are therapies. It's you are aware, of course, EMDR is something that takes you back to where does this feeling come from? And you can do it. Somatic therapies, there's a lot of different ways to say, where does this come from? Start writing, start journaling with a prompt. Where does this come from? What does it remind you of? Okay, here is the awareness. This is what's going on.
The origin.
Exactly. Make it sense.
Bring it back, everybody.
Yeah.
Making
sense of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And you do have a resource to share with everyone. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. I was thinking, because your listeners and viewers are grown-ups and I work with children, it's not as if I can do something for them directly, but anybody who's a parent or a teacher, I put on a quick list of do's and don'ts, things that you can say to children that might kind of nudge them in the direction of putting their needs second, and what to do instead. And I think, Marissa, you would make that available.
Yes. I'll put a link in the show notes. And Ofra, we can review that list for our inner child. And I looked at it, I was like, okay, I can use all of these for my inner child who I'm bringing along with me. So I think it is, it does apply to everyone. And I will put that in show notes. We'll put your contact information. And thank you so much for coming on.
Marissa, thank you for having me. And what a service you're doing with this podcast. I'm so glad it's here.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Hey, girl. It's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster. I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, Marissa@codependummy.com. Check out codependent.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please find one.